I've painted 3 Ork Boyz for this video. I have another 50 to paint. That's Beast Snaggers and normal Ork Boyz. If you want to see me punish myself by painting them all in one sitting, like this video. If this video gets 50 likes, one for each Ork that I need to paint, then I will do that in the coming weeks. I will do one sitting, all 50 Ork Boyz.
Hello internet, it's about 7:30 in the morning. My fiance just left work and I'm about to paint 50 Ork Boyz in one go. So let's see how long that takes. I'm gonna go get dressed, get everything ready, and I'll see you in a minute. The biggest obstacle to completing my Ork army is the boys. They're the backbone to the army, but each time I start to paint something new, I pick a cool vehicle or an awesome character model. I just couldn't face the boys. This had to change though, or I'd never be able to play with a painted army. As a result, I've decided to bulldoze my way through this green tide and paint all of my 51 Ork Boyz in one go. Now, straight away an issue arose. I don't have anything near enough room on my desk to set up an assembly line of this size. To combat this, I headed to my kitchen island. Not only would I have the space to spread out all of my supplies, but I would also be conveniently closer to the cookie jar. When it comes to picking the paints to use, I'm quite lucky. I can use my own YouTube videos for reference. Painting these boys would be done in the same way as how I painted them in the boys painting tutorial, which will be linked in the description below of course. So I already know the exact paints I would need. Once I was all set up, there was nothing left to do except to pop on my favourite podcast and get to painting. As it's the part that takes up the biggest percentage of the model, I begin by base coating the skin in my dark green. I think the main reason I did the skin first is because I know I can make the skin look effective quite quickly, which will trick my brain into thinking I've achieved more in a short period of time than I actually have. Either way, it was great to get the green skin out of the way nice and early. After dry brushing on the skin highlights, it was time to start painting the trousers. For this I jumped between 2 contrast paints, Black Templar Black and Achillean Green, which I only recently discovered. Though we obviously want a coherent scheme throughout the army, I personally think it's important to have variety to colour to keep things interesting, otherwise it will just blend into one big blob, which is why I chose to use a range of colours across the trousers, pelts and shirts. Speaking of shirts, the next item of clothing I painted was the very thing that covers all the orc nipples. Wait, if orcs are meant to be grown like fungi, then they can't have a need to breastfeed. So really, there was no evolutionary reason for orcs having nipples at all. Games Workshop, you're lying to us. Anyway, I'm once again mixing up colours here by throwing in the wonderful Castellan Green alongside the previously used colours for the shirts. The usefulness of having a plan cannot be understated here. When painting this many models, you don't want to be figuring out the scheme as you go. Knowing what you're doing and using batch painting will really help with the speed of the job and limit the frustration you will feel during it. So if you haven't already, I would suggest doing a test paint job on a single boy before attempting to do this many models in one go. For the armour panelling, I use my trusty Phoenician Purple, which is promptly backed up by the counter colour of Jacaro Orange. So it's time for me to have a little bit of a lunch break. I'm having leftover curry from last night, which I made. We've got a nice pine nut based prawn curry. and some Bombay Tats with brown rice because I eat loads, but I should at least try to make it healthier food, shouldn't I? We are currently about 4 hours in, and what I've done is I've painted most of the clothes now. So that's the trousers, the vest top thingies of most of the boys, and all the pelts on the beast snaggers. About to move on to the leathers and then the metallics. Wash everything, dry brush on some more highlights, and then get all the basing done, and it should be finished. It's going quicker than I expected, to be honest, which is good. I'm quite excited to be finished because I haven't actually been able to play any games with my orcs, because I've just been painting the character models, or like the big vehicles and stuff. The stuff that I think looks most fun to paint. So getting all these boys done, that's the backbone to my orc army. I can actually use it finally. So yeah, I'm gonna stop for lunch and I'll see you in a few seconds, but for me, I don't know, an hour. Gonna watch an episode of Y the Last Man. Bye! Moving on to the leathers and into my 6th hour, I really began to struggle. Painting these small details took the most time and made the least difference to the model. Prior to this stage, each time I had finished a colour there was a notable difference, but with the leather it was really demoralising to see so little change. So it's a new day. I did stop last night because I generally wear glasses when I'm painting, and I've never had to wear them for that long before. Start to screw up my eyes a bit, which, yeah, it wasn't good. So I decided to call it quits, resume today. I'd already done 7.5 hours yesterday. So we're about to jump back in. But I'll give you a quick look at what's been done so far. So, as you can see, at the moment we're at the stage where we've got all the skin painted, we've base coated all the clothes, including the leathers. All that's left to do is the metallic areas and the teeth, give a wash over everything except for the skin, and then go around highlighting certain areas. I've got all of these ones done to that. It's just these fellas left that need the leathers done. So I am making progress. Yeah, wish me luck. When it comes to painting all the metallic areas on the orcs, such as the weapons, I like to keep things rather simple. I'm just going to use lead belcher. An ordinary silver metallic paint will do just fine. Paint it all over the weapons and such. And then the last of the main colours I'm going to be using is a simple bone colour on all the teeth. It's such a small detail, it doesn't take much time to do at all per orc, but it really adds quite a punch to each miniature. Once I've gone ahead and slapped a wash over all these miniatures, I personally went for a brown wash, but you can do it in whatever type of wash you want that will further enrich the recesses and such. After you've got that done, I'm going to move on to the basing. Now, there were around 20 of my orcs that were on the old 25mm bases. I believe they were 25. And now the current Ork Boyz that are being produced are on 35mm bases. So I had the task of taking all the orcs off the old bases and putting them on the new ones. Was this a foolish idea to do once they were already painted? You bet it was, because we had many a casualty. Loads of toes snapped off, and I had to clip them off and glue them back on and such on the new bases. Yeah, this took a long time to sort out, and it's a very stupid idea to have done it once all the miniatures were painted. Now for actually basing the miniatures in terms of applying texture and stuff, and if you've seen my basing YouTube video then you will have seen how I apply this kind of thing to my infantry models in my orc army. Now normally I would be adding sand or Stirland mud or something, but for ease of painting I am just going to stick to Aquiline Earth today. We're only going to concentrate on the cracked texture. So that's all I do. I apply a nice coat of Aquiline Earth over every base, making sure to make some areas quite thick for deeper cracks and some areas relatively thin for smaller cracks. And then whilst the Aquiline Earth is still wet, I'm going to apply some grass tufts. This means that I don't need to use any glue as the paint actually sucks it to the base as well. And once this is done, this is my last step. So I suppose it's time for a big reveal. So that's it, 15 hours later, and I've finally finished all 51 of my Ork Boyz. And what have we learnt from this experience? Well, one, it's not fun to spend that long painting that many individual models. In fact, I went a little bit crazy. And two, it turns out if you come up with a plan, batch painting can actually be really effective and work quite well. Thank you to everyone who actually gave the Ork Boy painting tutorial a thumbs up or a like, whatever you want to call it. Without that support, I wouldn't have made this video. And it's also worth saying thank you to my current subscribers. Every time I post a video, I am awfully impressed by the number of people that come to join the channel, and I'm very grateful. And I'm even more grateful to the few patrons I've got. You guys are really helping over there, giving me just that little bit of money each month to get early access to videos and behind the scenes and stuff. It means the world to me. So thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, and until next time, I will see you later.